Hello! Welcome to Illuminating Crossroads. This is a space where we shine light on the power of choice so that we can find more ease and remembrance in the process of our individual and collective journeys. So if you're joining me today for this video, we're going to be talking about the new moon in Gemini that's coming up on June 17th. And depending on your time zone, I am operating from Pacific Daylight Time, so it might actually be on June 18th for you, so just want to point that out. But of course, the dates and times may vary a little bit, but at least you'll know the point of reference is, like, I'm based in San Diego, so that's where it's referenced from, if you will. So this upcoming new moon is really interesting in the fact that I see this theme of the father coming up, which is kind of funny because we have Father's Day, like, is the day after, or the 18th, if you will. So it's that Sunday. So it's really interesting seeing how there's this masculine energy already coming up, and then there's this masculine energy that's coming up with Gemini. And even in the cards that were picked, we got the archetype card of the father. So I am going to go through some of the cards, and then I have some notes as well, and we'll just kind of flow, and all of this is just to support with maybe setting intentions, gaining additional perspective, and maybe the own energies that you have also been feeling, and to really just initiate your own self-inquiry, contemplation, and support as you continue to move through your own journey, your own process, wherever you may be. And of course, as always, you can take what resonates and leave the rest. So, but coming back to this father essence, I really want to read from the book. So this is from the archetypes, The Wild Unknown Archetypes by Kim Krans. Absolutely love this oracle deck, and I just thought this would be nice to be an initiator for some thought, if you will. So for the father, it says, the great father, the masculine, the protector. Alongside the mother, the father resides in the central axis of the archetypal family. The father embodies both light and dark aspects of the masculine. Thus, he is infinitely dynamic and complex. His energy is strong and regal, embodying such virtues as honesty, wisdom, and loyalty. Yet, ironically and simultaneously, the father is often absent, literally or emotionally. Through absence or action, the father eventually reveals that he is neither a king nor a god, but a human with many flaws and wounds. He is both the guardian and one who leaves us to the wolves. Here, yet gone, the champion and the failure. The father can never resolve or escape this duality. It is inherent in the archetype itself. Witnessing the father's limitations allows the child to grow beyond the family and into the world. So when light, supportive, strategic, regal, kind, authority. When dark, disappearing, disappointing, devastated by failures. So this card is so, like, hello, because especially if you've been, like, tapping into just the collective essences, there's been more high focus on the mother, and it's so interesting that, you know, you have to at some point bring the father back into the picture in this metaphorical landscape, which I'm going to be exploring with you today. So the key thing that I really want to tap into, though, is that polarity and this absence and presence, or this light and this dark. Because with Gemini, we have this polarity in itself. So in looking at the glyph for Gemini, um, having two pillars side by side, or even thinking about the two twins, the two people side by side, there's this own polarity that takes place as well within this archetype and this essence of day and night. And when we allow ourselves to kind of illuminate this essence of the father archetype within our life and this polarity of its presence but its absence, and how maybe our inner child or just more of these new forming essences within our life are being held and supported, or if they are being left out to the wolves, if you will. um, it kind of allows us to really think into these spaces of how are we showing up for these parts of ourselves, especially within our mind, our intellect, and how we receive information. Because Gemini is a very curious sign. There's this childlike wonder or vision that you can see through the lens of Gemini, and it can illuminate this factor for us of how we allow our light to shine within the world around us, and embody our own truth. So we have the sun here, and it's so important when we're looking at the lunation cycles to really think about how the sun is playing factor into this, because we can think of the sun as being this vital essence, or like the vitality, this flame that is sustaining the warmth of life. And then thinking of the moon, so, or you can think of the sun as the father, right? And then thinking of the moon as maybe the mother, or the body, if you will, just our physical body, and how by allowing the inner vitality or that inner flame to be illuminated, our body is reflecting that art, which then reflects that into our experience. So as we generally hear the as within, so without, as above, so below. So when we begin to look at these archetypes in ways that are illuminating not only the essences of our physical experience, but coming even higher into this archetypal plane within, looking at it at a soul level or spiritual level, then we can begin to understand more as it trickles down how these channels of energy are kind of being expressed. So with that being said, and as far as the self-expression and embodied truth, and thinking about our own internal polarities, and if we think of the father essence within our own lives, of maybe what are parts of our lives that we've kind of been absent in, and also in regards to like just living, because a lot of the times we can be so creative and imaginative with our mind that we might be living a specific reality in our mind, in our mental space, but it's an illusion or this like false perception of the reality that is actually being experienced, or how exchanges are actually happening, because there's this missing like component of true understanding within the moment, because there's only this like you're like fluttering around, but it's like kind of missing the present, if you will. So if you're coming into this space now of allowing a contemplation between the mother and the father to come into place, or even if you just contemplate the father essence within your own life and understanding maybe what growth has been had in its absence, how can you actually allow this father archetype to actually come into your life more, to provide a union or a merging, a coming together as this card beautifully displays, a conjunction of the sense of like protection, feeling safe, feeling nurtured within your own body, within your own mind, and allowing for this beautiful bridge to be formed from your heart to your mind. And especially because right now we do have Venus and Mars in Leo, and Leo itself can be seen as this father essence, if you will, or the king, and it can also be this essence of the child too, for creativity, at least, because most of the time for creativity, as we grow older, we kind of fall away sometimes. Some of us fall away from this like instinctively creative ability that we have, and we still have in adulthood. So there is this calling to see, like, how are you allowing yourself to create from a space of understanding your own intellectual process, your own divine channel, and allowing it to flow through, so there's a more conscious creation. So this new moon is a beautiful time to be able to plant more of these seeds, to have the opportunity for moving from a balanced polarity, from a central equilibrium that can actually carry, depending on how you've been moving throughout your life. But now there's no, hopefully you're coming to a point where there's no just leaning on one end more than the other. And I know sometimes for ourselves, depending on how these archetypes come up, there will be a lean towards one more so than the other. But when we allow the exploration of each polarity and find how, when we bring them together, they create this even bigger picture, that's how we can actually find more value within our life, within our experience, and how seeing in the moments that may have had absence or this experience of lack or non-presence, that there was a presence of that essence still. It was just allowing us to experience this other side of it, to carry us through so we can understand more of the world and of this cosmic creation as we continue to move through it, and hopefully gain more understanding. But yeah, and especially so the Venus component came out. So Venus is give and receive love, find value, and see beauty. So a lot of the times, especially in this realm of dealing with thoughts, there may have been, okay, so I have a note here. If you think back to the Gemini full moon, it happened December 8th, 2022. You can think of how have you been allowing old ways of thinking to fall away from that moment. Hopefully at that time there was something initiated within you. And also, I know for myself, that's when I had I've been like loosely contemplating the mother archetype for quite some time, but that's when I actually like legitimately like kind of, I was like, okay, leaning into it more heavily, and then the father came up too. But now it's like I leaning into that, leaning into the father, and understanding, okay, what is the central point of both of these? What is the bigger picture? Coming back, bigger picture, bigger picture, bigger picture. Because now that you have hopefully had more understanding and finding more value as well. So when we had like the Mercury retrograde in Taurus, that was a very key time for like assessing one's experiences, like really throughout our entire life, if you will, which kind of can be a lot sometimes, but in understanding the value that has been gathered in experience, then we can see the beauty in it and have more passion to share that with others and to give from our hearts, because there's this more like deeply embodied experience of it. So we're moving in confidence, if you will. So tapping in to that Leo, or to that, let's say, king or queen essence, however you will. And there is just this kindness in asserting oneself and being confident in movement. So that is something that can be initiated or planted into this void of the new moon, if that's something that maybe you're wanting to call in for yourself, of more confidence in how you move and how you go about, and just knowing how you're operating and being more, yeah, that's funny. So we have fire too. So confidence, optimism, passion, and bravery. So this is a perfect time to call that essence in as well. And it's really important to think that when we have these like new full moon energies, or we're looking at specific key components that are happening, there's a building block of other archetypes and energies as well. So we want to kind of lean into all of these parts to have a balanced expression in the experience. So we're not just so focused on only one part of it, but we can have this more leveled playing field. I don't know why I want to say that, but more level playing field of operating, and there it's almost like there's no surprises, because you understand like your center, your truth, and you are really fully leaning into your own discernment. You understand that you are your own protector, but there is an essence of protection always. You are your own nurturer, but there is an essence of nurturing always that's coming to us. So there's this this understanding and this cyclical nature of experience, if you will. And with that being said, when we allow ourselves to understand this cyclical experience, yeah, we get to like dive into this like beautiful cosmic water, if you will, and to flow more. So thinking of this Gemini essence being mutable air, like how do you actually allow yourself to enjoy being curious, enjoy exploring, and not being so rigid with thoughts, or being stuck in this like more superficial mindset, if you will. But how do you actually allow yourself to come into this altered space of really leaning in to curiosity and expansion? And here we have the sword, which is so cool because it also has, it looks like it has the sun and the moon and stuff on it too. So thinking of the sword is important at this time, that if you're, so this card was at the back of the deck, it was a 5 of Wands. So if your passions are being driven by, I don't want to say hatred or anger, but if your passions aren't being driven by love, now is definitely a time to really dive into that and contemplate it. Because if we continue to, anyone continues to move from a place of passion, from a state of rage, that's not, I don't want to say that's not in love. Let me think about this. Okay, so I got the analogy, which I feel like I've had this analogy before, that like just thinking of understanding the fire and the flame, And if we are so fueled by fire, there can be this essence of it that can become a little uncontrollable, especially thinking of that like shifting air and it's just blowing it. And it can become to this extent of where there's no there's no container, there's no foundation, it's not held, it's not nurtured. So just being super mindful with that, and in saying that, thinking of like, how are you choosing to consciously take these thoughts or these divine insights or this wisdom that you're receiving and sharing it from this more heart-centered space? Or just how are you using your words and being mindful of like how cutting they can be? And are they like, is it cutting down, like thinking of an analogy, like are you cutting down the forest? So, well, not that we want to cut down forests, but are you like, in this analogy, whatever, are you cutting down the forest so there is a clear path for everyone else? Or are you just cutting down the forest because you're just like blazing through and not even being intentional with it? So that is potentially something to think about. And we also got the Poet as an archetype card here. So I think the Poet coming out is very beautiful because it's been coming up quite a bit in meditation and such, if you will, that honoring our channel of creativity and noticing that if you do have emotions that are like trying to move through you, but you may find them to be a bit difficult, it can be so supportive to understand your channel of creativity that comes with ease. And I say this because then you can take this opportunity to like, even though sometimes like if we're crying, like it may be weird to be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna write a poem while I'm crying. But I can even speak from experience. It's actually really supportive because now you're allowing for this emotion to be experienced and expressed in its fullest form, and you're allowing for a creation to take place that can bring resolve or bring a better understanding of yourself. And you're allowing it to move, and you get to witness and reflect and perceive this wave of emotion, and even maybe get additional insight into whatever it is that you're experiencing by allowing this to flow through you through a creative outlet. And of course, like, the Poet came out, but if you don't write poetry, maybe you dance or draw or sing, or maybe you like crafting with your hands, whatever it may be. And then two, sometimes if we're feeling lost and we begin to tap into this essence of creativity for our mind, we can have more guidance or support come through with ease, and then we might be able to see the next steps and get a higher perspective, especially with all these birds in the card. I didn't even notice that. But yeah, so like then we can tap into this higher perspective, and there's multiple viewpoints. Like there's so many different viewpoints that we can get from one thing. Like even just like these cards, for example, and looking at one of them, there's many messages. I'm sure like you could probably give it to multiple people and there probably is the same underlying message, but there'd be so many different perspectives. And sometimes allowing ourselves to be able to expand to a new perspective allows for a beautiful window or door of opportunity to have more accelerated, I don't want to say accelerated, but just to have continued growth that's sustainable, so we don't have to backtrack as much. So yeah. And with that being said, so we have 3 cards left. Let's see what one we want to go to next. I will do the Tower next. So the Tower card came out, and honestly, I think this is like kind of going back to if there was anything specific in December that you finally decided like, hey, I'm fed up with this. This isn't going to be the way that I operate anymore. I'm going to be I'm going to allow myself to have fun or express or whatever it is, or whatever you wanted to change up. This new moon, and hopefully the Sag full moon, really initiated it even more for yourself. But now is a time like anything that has been rotting within your own energetic space, it's time to like clean it out, clear it out, push it to the compost so it can do its thing over there, but not within your own energetic space. Because especially we have the same day that we have the full moon, hello, that we have the new moon in Gemini, we're going to be having Saturn go retrograde too, within Pisces, and it's going to, throughout the summer, it will be going retrograde back to the point that it started at when it ingressed into Pisces at the beginning of March. So there's also a going back. So there's a going back factor in that regard. And I think now is such an amazing time with the seeds that can be planted for this new moon. And here we'll just like tap into this Knight of Pentacles, thinking of like, okay, I know like where I'm at now, and how has more confidence been achieved, and understanding the practicality, the patience, and really moving from a place where I'm utilizing my own resources, and maybe even like tapping into community and seeing where resources lie in that regard, to allow for forward movement, or to maybe just be open to receiving. Because if we're allowing the Tower to take place wherever it may be within our life, and we're actually making, like, we've made the room, right? So this should be a point where the room has already been made. So you should have space that's cleared. And if you don't have space, then you can, of course, set the intention to clear it out before you plant some seeds within that space. But these should be areas or things within your life that you've kind of already cleared up for yourself. And of course, you do want to see where Gemini is within your chart, if you have that available for you, because that will also give a lot more additional insight into how you can work with this new moon, seeing like, okay, where have you been clearing out house for the past 6 months in this area of your chart? And then now what is it that you're sowing, or what is it you're sowing, but hopefully you've kind of already done so, but now it's like, all right, I'm gonna plant it. Maybe I don't know why I want to say, maybe I'm gonna like take the sprouts and like space them out a little bit more so they can have room to flourish fully, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, but really being open to receiving the potential fruits and such, if you will. And then here we have the Knight of Cups, which I absolutely love that this has a feather on it, talking about our thinking and wisdom, if you will. So with the Knight of Cups, there, and especially this is all purple, I'm just like thinking of like our crown, and this little part makes me think of a dragonfly. So in allowing a change in perspective or perception and a shift, you can actually open up to receiving more from a flow. And both of these essences, like the Pentacles and the Cups, they're much slower, if you will, and slower not doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it's like actually like coming back to the Nine of Cups, like really like enjoying each drop fully, and being open to when others may come into your life, and especially because with Gemini, you can be like wanting to share, or like there's like this interaction between another sometimes. So if there's someone that's wanting to share something with you, or you're wanting to share, it can be in flow, and it's not like in a forceful state. Don't know how I want to say that, but it's just with ease. I feel this essence of ease. So I hope that this next chapter that we're all planting seeds for, myself included, is allowing for the initiation of more flow and understanding in regards of how, in the moments that there has been absence or lacking, if you will, that there hasn't been. It's just been a different perception or perspective of said archetypes to gather more understanding of how it operates within our lives. And just always remembering that if you are feeling heavy at these times, or really, so thinking, if we're thinking of cycles, thinking about how this will lead up for the next 6 months, and especially into like retrograde season over the summer, I think that ease and patience and really being disciplined and following your curiosity, because it might open new doors for you that maybe you weren't fully consciously aware of, but maybe you got hints about before, and now it's time to actually like begin to move through it. And I think as it's like moved through and it's initiated and it's continued, then you'll probably be surprised at all the beautiful like sprouts and just the garden that you will have built, because you've been putting in this amazing effort. So yeah, so I feel pretty complete with that. I hope that this video supports, and if it resonates with you, or if you have any comments, or if there was something else that you perceived, I would love to hear it, because this is a community, so it's not just about my voice, it's about your voice as well. And I think all of us have a part of our truth to share, so I'm always more than happy to hear it. And yeah, I look forward until the next time. I hope that you have a happy new moon. You can subscribe if you'd like, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye.